What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. This episode is brought to you by Virtual Intelligence, your premier partner for client-facing and back-office virtual employees. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I am joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Shawn, I almost slipped there. Only five episodes of saying Sound Harbor. I still got a little L in my twang over here. I'm just saying.
I hear you, man. Dude, trust me, whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, it takes me a second every time.
You're not even rocking the polo. I usually just look right at the polo, and that way I can do it. But you're trying to throw curveballs on me. There, he's got the hat. Hey, we're jumping right into it today. We have a familiar face of the podcast, a good friend of the podcast, Mr. Chris Langile, owner of Advisory Evolve today, and we're going to talk about some cool new things coming down with ChatGPT, AI, all that good stuff. And I want to just start by thanking Chris for bringing this to us, because he brought this to us as, hey, I think this would be something cool to talk about, and it's the exact way that he runs his business, is providing value. That's why we talk about the guys over at AE so much, because they provide value that don't just set up your website and forget it. That is just a plug from Stephen Turnbull, not being paid to say that. I'm telling you, that's the type of person he is. And that's why he said, hey, guys, let's talk about this, because I think it's going to be something coming up in the next couple of months. And we wanted to have him on to talk about it. So, Chris, thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time to be here. How are you?
Doing great, man. Yeah, I appreciate you guys, putting me on the stage here again. It's so funny, man. Like, I woke up one night in the middle of the night. It's like 3 o'clock. Could not go back to sleep. This is like something that happens way too often, unfortunately, these days. But just mind racing. Couldn't turn my mind off. Pick up my phone, start scrolling through, and I see OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, launched a search engine. I'm like, wait a minute, what? So, I go down this rabbit hole, and, by like 6:30 in the morning, I'm like down at my desk by this point, like, searching around to see if I could find more information. Found out that, it's in beta. It's still in beta. You can request access. Literally go to searchgpt.com, or you can go to chatgpt.com/search. But they accept like 10,000 beta users. I, applied for it immediately and got in about probably 2 weeks later. But there's a lot of hype surrounding this, as you guys could probably imagine. Just AI in general over the last 12 to 24 months has like overtaken the many industries, right? Especially in insurance. Like, everybody is now talking about AI. Like, how can we use AI in our agency? So it's a big talking point, and to a large degree, like it's a big shiny object. And I feel like there's already enough shiny objects in our ecosystem, but I think it's one worth talking about, just because anytime something has a legitimate chance to be a direct competitor to Google, that's something that's worth talking about. Google, I have a lot to say. I mean, it's I know we want to keep this thing to 25, 30 minutes, but for everybody listening, right? Google you have to play their game. They're like the mob. And I say that in a respectful way. They have 80+% market share in search. Nobody can really touch them. Like, Bing has been around for quite a long time. Bing still struggles to maintain, 7 to 8% market share. There's a couple other smaller search engines, DuckDuckGo and stuff, but Google is and has been, really the monopoly, to the point where they're actually being sued for being a monopoly, which is kind of crazy. And I think OpenAI saw that and thought, like, there's blood in the water. Like, we were gonna launch this anyway. All right, but now Google is kind of like on the ropes with a huge, potentially huge type of lawsuit. I mean, it's, even if SearchGPT gets 3 to 5% market share, like that in and of itself would be massive, and that could change the way that people find insurance agencies and people shop for insurance. I mean, I think I read it in an article or a YouTube video, like OpenAI got 100 million users in like 2 weeks. It took Facebook like 2 years. It took these other Twitter 8 years. Like, the speed at which OpenAI has grown in the last year is like, it's unbelievable. It's history in the making, right?
It's crazy. Before we get into the search stuff, if we could just maybe round robin here, and I just want to share something. I think I was relatively late to the AI game as far as implementing it into the agency. And yeah, to your point, you said there's many tools that have come out. There's many AI insurtechs that have come out where that's what they do. They go and make reports, all these things. I challenge somebody who hasn't really dabbled into it. Use the free version of GPT and just leave it open on your browser. And play around with it throughout the day. Like, hey, make this email sound friendlier, or
great advice.
Or whatever you're doing. I mean, in the show we're using AI, in the agency now every day I'm using AI, even just on the free side of things. And then we get into, Loom just came out with an AI feature where it transcribes things, which is mind blowing. All of these different things. To your point, they're additional shiny objects, but they're ones to pay attention to. But if you just start with pull AI up next to your email and leave it there all day. And be like, oh yeah, let me see if I can. Hey, can you give me an idea? Marketing ideas. Can you give me an idea on this blog? Can you give me an idea on this email to make? Maybe you have a difficult customer and you want to say, hey, screw you, but you need a polite way to say that. Ask AI to do that. Not that I've done that once or twice.
Rewrite this with empathy.
Yeah. But it's crazy, and you get into all the buzz, and I know I'm going a little off track here of people saying, well, this is going to replace X, Y, and Z. Do your job as an agency owner, as a scratch agent, to enhance what you're doing, not replace. And I'll get off my high horse there.
No, it's great advice, man. I mean, we talk to agencies, so much. I mean, we have, a lot of clients across the country, and like every day, right? People are like, they struggle to find the words for certain things, right? Like to your point, social media posting, blog articles, emails, like the insurance agents, and again, this is not a negative or anything, but like live in a left brain world, numbers, technical stuff, coverages. You're so far removed from like the right brain creative side of your mind that when it comes to being creative or coming up with verbiage, people really struggle because they're just not, that's not what they do day in and day out. And it's why, there's professional copywriters and there's professional designers and there's professional web developers. It's because people literally that side of the brain does not function the way that other people's do. And so ChatGPT and AI in general, like great, like you said, to augment and to help people that struggle with some of the creativity. I mean, Google, we're talking about Google, they launched or launching an AI image generator called Image FX. If you Google that, Image FX, or try looking it up in Search GPT and see what you find. But they have some other like brother and sister programs or softwares to that, which Video FX, Music FX, Text FX. Everybody's jumping on the AI bandwagon. I mean, Google, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, you see that they rushed their AI product to market. It was first called
Gemini, right?
Baird or whatever, and they changed it to Gemini, and it was broken. And to a certain degree, still is. I mean, all AI is inaccurate right now. It's just the reality of the situation. None of it's perfect. That's one of the things that I'll be looking for with Search GPT is the accuracy of the data and how 100%. It returns information. Like in my research, depending on what the search query is, Search GPT does a way better job of answering what you're looking for. Like an example is if you type into Google, like the word insurance, Google's going to try to guess what your intent is behind that query. They're going to show you probably a bunch of random stuff, right? You're going to see ads, obviously, because Google is always going to prioritize ads and paid search. But, with Search GPT, there's going to be follow-up prompts. It's going to be more conversational. Well, you typed in insurance. Well, what exactly do you mean? Like, are you looking to buy insurance? Do you want to know what a deductible is? Like, what are you actually looking for? And that's one area where I think Google, at least that's one of the shortcomings with how Google search typically works, right? Like you type in stuff and you get ads, depending on the nature of your search, right? If it's an informational search, you're not going to see a map pack. If it's a navigational search, you most likely will. If somebody's looking for a specific type of business or directions, you're going to see the map pack. If it's an informational search, you're going to see ads. You're probably going to see a knowledge graph, maybe FAQ, some videos. Like the search results change. If you guys may or may not realize that, depending on the nature of the actual search query, you're going to see a different layout in search. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, because right now the stronghold that Google has is their local search product, which is Maps. Google Business Profile and Maps. And that right now does not exist. And that is a huge deal for brick and mortar businesses, not just insurance agencies, but, everybody, plumbers, mechanics, dental, everybody. Like if you're a small business, like the Map Pack has probably given you a majority of your calls and website traffic over the last 3 to 5 years. It's not as much about the little blue links. Like people aren't looking at that as much as they used to. People are not digging through 10 different websites to find their answer. And I think that's what Search GPT is trying to help fix, where, you're going to get a clear cut answer right away. Like in the video, and I'll give you guys the link to put in your show notes. This guy, Matt Diggity, he's like an SEO talking head. He's been in the game for quite a while, somebody that a lot of people kind of follow. And he has some pointed views and brings up some good stuff. And he's actually one of the first videos that I found when I was up at 3 a.m. He must have been up at 3 a.m. too, because it was like, I found out about it right then and there. And then, his video was one of the only ones I found on YouTube. But there's a lot of stuff that he talks about in the video that, it's super interesting. I mean, just the nature of how AI search will work and how it works now versus Google. And definitely, anybody that's listening would probably enjoy watching that video. It's like a 10-minute long video, but just going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, because, to this date, really nobody has challenged Google. And like, obviously they've been in the game for such a long time. They have such a big suite of products. You can get your business email through Google, like Google Business Profile, Google Maps, YouTube. I mean, if I think Search GPT really wanted to challenge Google, they would need to have a video product or a video engine similar to YouTube. Me personally, and I think search behavior has, I'm not saying just because it's me, but like, I think this is probably the case for a lot of people now in 2024, especially like Gen Y. People are not using traditional Google search. They're searching in YouTube.
I want to bring up something on that point that you just said real quick, Shawn, just what's top of mind. We had a tornado here recently, which we don't have many tornadoes up this way. It was devastating in a town right next to ours. I had a good amount of claims that one day, and one client called me and he said, "Hey, I got some damage. I dropped my full policy document in ChatGPT, and this is what it told me it would cover. Is that true?" And my point in telling this story is I was flabbergasted at first. I'm like, "You did what?" He's like, "I dropped my PDF." This was before I even knew that you could drop PDFs. So now I'm not even answering his claim question. I'm just like, you can drop PDFs in there, really? But my point is to start using these. And it was accurate, by the way, correct. And my point is, our clients are going to start using these as well. To Chris's exact, and that's why I cut you off, Chris, to your exact comment of people aren't going to Google anymore. Now maybe they're going to ChatGPT. They're going to different engines. They're looking for a short video on something. And so we as business owners, as agency owners, need to be prepared for that type of communication and interaction as well.
Yeah, great point. And I just wanted to add to that, Stephen. Chris Green and I were going back and forth about like uploading policy docs into ChatGPT. And it was funny. I uploaded like a flood policy to it and said, is this exclusion in this policy? And it actually gave a wrong answer. And I had to challenge it a little bit to finally be like, oh yeah, it might not be in this policy. So I think with those types of things, you just got to be, I have the paid version too. Just got to be a little careful with that stuff. But I wanted to ask Chris. So you mentioned it, I think, on the last episode, and I started focusing on it more, like how I use Google. And anytime I use Google now, I use the maps. I'm just like, oh, local 100%. Electrician, and I look on Long Island and I try to find the highest rated one closest to me, and that's how I'm using it. So I'm curious how Search GPT, so from a ranking standpoint, right? Google is gonna, based off reviews and your business profile. Do you have any inclination on how Search GPT is gonna like have ranking? How that's gonna work?
I don't. So
Okay.
because that's how new it is. I mean, this thing has like literally been out for like 2 months. My guess is that if they introduce some type of local search product or local search algorithm, a lot of people don't know this. Google has a bunch of different algorithms. The main two are the organic algorithm and the local algorithm. So organic being the blue links. And I can tell you right now, if you're trying to rank number one in the blue links and you're a brick and mortar insurance agent, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a battle that you're always going to be fighting and chasing. And it's very, very difficult to do because Google, they like big brands. They prioritize big brands that have domain authority, backlinks. There's people in the space and there's other web developers that I know that I see online and Twitter and whatnot and competitors that claim, we can rank you number one, this, that, and the third, right? Okay, even if that's true, which it probably isn't, it's very hard. It's just so competitive of an industry to rank number one for these very competitive keywords. You might be able to rank number one for stuff no one's searching for, long tail stuff, right? But it's very difficult to do. And so that's kind of like, I don't even say like a warning or anything like that, but like a heads up to anybody that's like paying people to blog on their site or paying for like SEO. Like you might be paying for stuff that is ultimately not really going to happen because of the way Google search works. You need to focus on the local algorithm and video. That is where independent agencies, that's the low hanging fruit. If you could rank number one in organic for a couple different search queries, that's great, but that is very difficult to do. And if that's where you're focusing a lot of your energy, it could be a disappointing outcome. It's cutthroat. It's very competitive. There's a lot of big brands in our space that Google loves. And it's the same. And again, that's one thing that hopefully Search GPT changes, right? And that's one thing that they've claimed that they will change is like, we want this to be fair for all publishers, whether you're a big brand or a mom and pop insurance agency, like we want the results to be fair. And right now on Google, they're not fair at all. Mm-hmm. Think about it, right? You have the first thing you see is ads, and then you're seeing the more authoritative sites. It's almost like a popularity contest, right? Once you get to the organic results, like it's very difficult. It's very difficult for a small business to rank number one organically. And I think Search GPT, hopefully, again, if they bring to the table some type of like local search component, reviews, they bring in a review platform like Google Reviews, I mean, that will tell you the direction that they're heading. And I think for them to be able to like really monetize, they're going to have to do that. And that is when they could be legitimately viewed as maybe a one-to-one competitor with Google. I mean, right now, Google's still number one.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone can do it, ChatGPT probably could. I'm curious to see, did they have any mention of like how long it's going to be in beta for? Or it's
no, I mean, when I log into it now, it doesn't mention anything about beta. Let me actually see something real quick.
Yeah, because I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, the wait list is now closed, so it is still in beta. I haven't got any correspondence about when that will be when it will be out of beta, but I think one of the big reasons, right, like Search GPT is now a thing or will be a thing, is like they're trying to get as much data as they can to improve their core LLM, which is Search GPT. They want that that product to be as accurate as possible. So I think having a search engine, obviously, with the left hand and right hand kind of communicating, they'll be able to do that way quicker. And like that, that's when it's gonna, for Google, when this was announced, Google lost, like their shares were down 3% that day. It was like kind of a big deal. I mean, it's
for sure.
They're the giant right now, but it's it
was like when Amazon said they're going to start doing insurance. Some agents are shaking in their boots,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, and I think it's going to be something that a lot of people, maybe not right now, but a year from now, and a lot of these Facebook groups, the insurance groups, like there's obviously a lot of shiny object stuff in our space, but this is definitely something to keep an eye on, I think, over the next like 6 months to a year.
So Chris, go ahead, Shawn.
No, you go T5.
No,
I think you're going to ask the same question.
If I'm listening to this right now and I'm a forward-thinking agency owner, I want to keep a pulse on it. What are your suggestions for that? Like what should we know about that, and how do we stay up to date with it besides blowing you up, which I know you don't want?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, like I just go to YouTube and I'll type it in, or I'll follow certain people on YouTube that I know I'm not going to have the time to like gather all this information myself. But there was a tool like back in the day where you could like bookmark different RSS feeds and it would send you notifications. I can't even remember what the name of it is now, but it's a good question. I mean, I'm going to keep my eye on it. Like I'm looking at it every couple of days to see like if there's any movement. So, I'll 100% keep you guys posted. And, like I did this time, like I came to you and said, hey, like this is a great idea for an episode because it's definitely something it's big now and it's just going to keep getting bigger. I mean, just AI in general, like Perplexity is another AI driven, search tool. I mean, and who knows, by this time next year, there could be 3 or 4 other competitors. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Claude. Claude is another LLM that's basically a direct competitor to ChatGPT. And a lot of people, like in my world, in the development world, copywriting, marketing, like it more than ChatGPT because it provides better written content. You can, it could write code for you. Like it does all I mean, ChatGPT does too, but there's a lot of people that actually prefer Claude to ChatGPT for various purposes. But it's just AI in general, man. It's going to keep expanding and expanding. And it's going to be one of those things that the average business owner just gets lost in. So I do think it's important for like the average agency owner, like don't go down the rabbit hole just yet. It's still very new in the grand scheme of things. And, there's so many people I see, man, like obsessed with SEO. They'll hire and fire marketing agencies. They'll put all this time and energy into SEO. And it's like, dude, there's other ways to drive traffic to your site. There's other ways to get business. And it's just one of those things that's become such a big like hype machine that people think it's like the all-in-one. And my fear is that AI will become that and be a big distraction to most business owners. So I'm doing my due diligence, man. And, I'll keep you guys up to date because it's something that I'm actively following.
Speaking of big shiny objects and distractions, I actually wanted to ask you for, the people using Advisor Evolve website, have you seen any users integrating like an interesting AI tool to their Advisor Evolve platform that you're like, man, that's cool. I think that could bring a lot of value.
Honestly, man, not really. There's some different AI driven like SEO tools out there. I've looked at them. I don't want to say I don't like them, but they're not, put it this way. They're not necessary if you have your website with us.
Gotcha.
But if you're somebody who's building your own site and you don't know what meta descriptions are, meta titles, and you don't understand any of the technical back end stuff, there's some tools out there that, you might be able to leverage that could help you with stuff like that. But honestly, man, like, there's chat bots and stuff, but
that's what,
there hasn't really been anything yet that's been like monumental. There are some tools out there in like the WordPress ecosystem that are starting to develop more and more where like you can type in a prompt and it will create a landing page for you with AI. I've been testing some of that stuff out, and it's one of those things where right now it doesn't work correctly most of the time. So you end up having to rebuild the page anyway. Yeah. So you actually, at the end of the day, you probably spent more time building the landing page because you had to fix something that wasn't correct the first time. So
that makes sense.
And that's kind of why I tell people like, keep AI at arm's length right now, because it is still new and it's not something that's going to solve every problem you have in life. It's still in development. Even ChatGPT is spitting out wrong answers. Google Gemini is spitting out wrong answers. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
100%.
I want to make 2 points quick before we probably wrap this up here with time. Yep. One is you mentioned about video, the power of video. That's still very powerful. And to your point in our conversation, this is just one man's opinion, but we've done fairly well with Google reviews. By the way, the competition with Shawn and Steven is still going on. If you want to go see the scorecards, go check them out yourself. But we've done very well with Google reviews, but I look at it more as like that is a validation point when they've already found us based on our social media. Maybe they've come across a video, maybe they were referred to us, and then they go and look, versus I'm just going to get a ton of business because I have good Google reviews. Is that an accurate type of, that's just one piece of the puzzle? 100%. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. And I think reviews, again, that's kind of they're important. Don't get me wrong. All things being equal, the business that has more typically is going to show up higher in the map pack. Although I've seen businesses with like 1 or 5 reviews that have shown up above other agencies that have like hundreds of reviews. Why that is, I'm not 100% sure. Google is not perfect either. But yeah, definitely Google, reviews are important. But it's not something where, and I see a lot of businesses spending all this time on reviews and it's like the only thing they think and talk about. And it's like, man, it's one piece of the puzzle, right? It's important. It's definitely important, but it's not going to reach out and grab somebody off the internet for you. Like, people still have to research you. They have to search for what you sell first to get to you. But yeah,
if they see you have 50 Google reviews, a 5-star, and go to your Facebook page and haven't posted since March, there could be a disconnect there versus, other way around.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess that was my point. Second point, I just want to ask you this question. I love picking your brain on this stuff because you were once us, right? You were once in the agency, went to the dark side. And I when we talk about shiny objects, what do you think the best way for agents to navigate that conversation is? The shiny object, especially for scratch agencies, $1 million question, I know. But to your point here, you're saying keep this at arm's length. Keep it here. No action yet. Keep an eye on it because I think it's going to do something for your agency. We just talked about use the free version of GPT, put it up on your computer, all these things. But over the years of being an agent, working with agents now and what you do, what is some advice around that?
Man, that is a great question. I think I would say any piece of technology that comes out, especially in our ecosystem, right? There's so many different insurtechs out there now. Keep them keep that at arm's length too, right? Like, I think there's some folks that are in our space, without naming anybody in particular, they get excited about this stuff and they start to talk about it and people start to follow them and it turns into this, shiny object, right? And it's like, it distracts people, honestly. So I think, especially for a scratch agent, man, like, focus on the lowest hanging fruit possible. That's going to generate new business for you. And for a lot of scratch agents, that's going to be relationship building, word of mouth referrals. I would even tell a scratch agent, like, you should have a good website, but that might not be the very first thing that you spend money on when you start your agency, right? A chatbot should not be the first thing that you spend money on.
Right.
Like, I would even go as far as to say a CRM. Like, you got to have customers first before you have a CRM to put them into. You know what I mean? So I think definitely a big part of it is doing the right things in the right order when you're a scratch agent, so that you're not sitting there a year later and you spent 30 grand in tech and you made 80 grand and you took home 40 grand after taxes. And your wife is like, yo, dude, you better like go start selling cell phones or something. Like, this ain't working. I think it's, if you follow certain people, it could really distract you from your mission. So I would say, keep your head down, keep it at arm's length. If there's something good enough that really is impactful enough and you're an insurance agent, you will hear about it at some point from trusted people in the space. And that's no shot at anybody, by the way. I don't have anybody in mind when I'm talking about this. I'm just saying, it's in general, people like to take the shiny object and kind of like run with it. And it's like, it follow the herd mentality, right? Everybody kind of follows suit, and it's like turns into this big talking point. And it's like, wait a minute, like, Search GPT has been out for 2 months. I'm not going to go crazy and start posting all this stuff about it yet. It's too early to make any noise about it, I guess.
Well, and just to wrap up that point, I want to answer my question of what has changed my belief. Again, this is one man's opinion. There's tons of tech tools that I'd love to put in the agency. We're only 2 years in. It's not the time. What I think can shift that is, man, to your point, keep an eye on insert tech tool here, because at this point, that would be good for us. At 4 years, that would be good for us, and keeping an eye on that and seeing how that evolves. Or when we get to this point in client numbers or whatever, this would be good. But to your point, when you have 50 clients, does it make sense to have a CRM? Does it make sense to have an app? Does it make sense to have all these AI things talking to each other? No, just get revenue in the door. And I think the other thing we talk about a lot that can't be said enough is it solving a problem?
Yep.
And then, maybe in 4 years, that agency app will solve a problem, but maybe at 2, it doesn't. I'm just using that as an example.
Sure.
That's completely just an example. But I think once you change that shift on it, yeah, that's incredible. Shawn, you got anything else?
No, I'm good, man. That we touched on everything I wanted to touch on.
Chris, thanks for taking the time. Anything else people should know about before we wrap this up, or just kind of keep the pulse? Maybe we'll do a recap of this in the next 6 months or something.
Yeah, no, nothing off the top of my head. I would just say, check us out, advisorevolve.com. And there's been a couple of other episodes of Scratch Agency Podcast. Make sure you follow them. Always good talking to you guys, man. And appreciate you having me on.
Yes, I think it was episode 13, if you go back to the original one back in the day. And we just had you on a few episodes ago, but I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. That was super cool, and I appreciate you doing that. Everybody, make sure to check out Chris and Advisory Evolve. That's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. But most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.